You know that Christmas song is beginning to look a lot like Christmas. We hear it everywhere this time of year, and it paints this amazing rosy image, this ideal picture of how Christmas ought to be. The toys in the window, and the glow, and the candy canes, and there's magic in the air, and everything is just as it should be. And then the song gets really honest and says, and mom and dad can hardly wait for school to start again. You may know what that's about. If you haven't noticed, sometimes this time of year can get a little bit tense. This thing that should be a magical 2 weeks off of school, and you can stay up as late as you want and eat all the candy canes you want and have lots of wonderful things happen, doesn't always end up just so wonderful. And sometimes it's a real recipe for a lot of chaos and potentially a lot of stress and conflict in our households. My name's Corey Jackson. I'm a counselor here at CAFA in Eugene, Oregon. And I'm here to explore with you some knowledge and some tools to potentially make this a less stressed family holiday for you and for your children. So at CAFA, our mission is to create a safer place for children. And we are partnering right now with the Western Lane Foundation, whose generous grant is making this series possible. This is an outreach of two of CAFA's programs, the Safe Families for Children and True Insight Parenting Strategies. We're all working together right now to make this a better time of year for you and for your children. We're also going to have a series of art and craft videos that you can do along with your children with some of our artists here from CAFA, but also we're partnering with the Dragon Art Studio in Florence, Oregon, to have some more of their videos and their instructors show you some great things you can do with your children this time of year. Check them out. You can find them on the web and on Facebook. Look at Dragon Art there in Florence, Oregon. You can see some wonderful things that they have for you as well. So before we get started, I'm going to invite you to do something with me here. We're going to explain in this video how having a calm brain helps you learn things better, helps information sink in a little better. So before we even learn anything new, we're just going to take a moment together. I'm going to ask you to find kind of a comfortable position for you to get into just right now while you're watching this video. I want you to take a few big, deep breaths with me. Breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just kind of keep that going. I want you to think about why you're here. Who is it that's important to you? Why are you taking time out of your busy schedule this holiday season to build some new skills? Obviously, someone is important to you. As you're breathing, just picture the faces of those people who are important to you, your children, your family members, people whose lives you would like to make better this time of year. Then think about why it is exactly you're watching this. What is it you would like to go better for you and for your children this time of year? What would you like for your holidays to look like? What is it that you want? Just breathe. And I want to thank you personally for taking time out of your schedule to do this year. And I hope that this is going to be something that will be very powerful for you and potentially something that you can use for the years to come as well as you structure how your holidays would like to look. Before we get started, I'd also like for you to take a moment to make a commitment. We're going to spend, around 45 minutes or so together right now exploring the brain and looking at how we can reduce stress in our households. But I want you to think about what you want to accomplish after this 45 minutes is over with. What is it that you would like to know? Make a personal commitment to yourself. It may be that your commitment is that you're going to keep an open mind during this first series. Keep an open mind, and maybe there's something you don't know that you would like to know. Maybe it's that you're going to stay focused. Maybe you'd like to stay focused during this video. And it's easy with all the distractions that are around, and maybe you pull up your phone and you're on something, looking up something for right now. Making a commitment to stay focused means I'm going to notice when I've lost focus, and I'm going to get back. Commitments are something that we're going to talk about in one of our videos, that are a practice you can build into your household to help build structure and bring intentionality into your days and into what's going on for you. So you're going to practice it right now. What do you intend to get out of this next 45 minutes? I've got my commitment right here on my chalkboard. I'm committing right now that I'm going to practice speaking calmly and slowly. This is my commitment to you and to myself right now. So when I do these videos and these trainings, a lot of times I feel so excited, and I feel like I have so much to share with all of you. And I feel so excited that people are engaging and want lives to be better and relationships to be better between themselves and their children. And in that excitement, sometimes I begin to speak very quickly, and my excitement kind of bubbles over, and that doesn't always do me well, and it doesn't do you well either. So I'm making a commitment to speak calmly and slowly during this video series. Now I'll be able to tell, and so will you, if I'm off track, if I've lost my focus and I begin to speak really rapidly. I'm going to need to recognize that. And I don't want to shame myself or blame myself, like I would ask for you to be kind to yourself when you notice I'm not quite meeting the mark here. And I'm going to gently guide myself back to my commitment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a breath and remind myself I've got plenty of time. I'm here. I'm focused. You're here. We're here to learn together. So let's do that. This first video, as I mentioned, is the first in a series of 4. We're going to look at the brain state model during this video right now. And we're going to look at how getting to know your brain might help reduce stress and help you manage it a little better in your household during this season. Now, parts 2 through 4, we're going to look at how building connections between you and your child, building structure in the household, and shifting to a positive mindset can also be very powerful tools to help this become a less stressed holiday season for you. If you'd like, you can also download a workbook that goes along with this series at trueinsightparent.com. I want to give credit to the experts in the field here. So these ideas that I'm going to be sharing with you are not my ideas. These come from great research in the field, particularly Dr. Dan Siegel and Dr. Becky Bailey are the main resources I'm going to use as I'm explaining these tools and these practices and this knowledge to you during this series. Dr. Dan Siegel is kind of the expert in the field of interpersonal neurobiology, looking at how the brain, the body, and the nervous system is oriented towards relationship, and how knowledge of how our brain and our body works can actually improve our ability to manage ourselves and our relationships. Now, Dr. Becky Bailey was a school teacher who learned a lot about these brain states and the interpersonal neurobiology, and did what great school teachers do. She found great ways to make this really accessible, and brought some tools that are really learnable and things that you can actually implement into your household really, really well. So there's some books that are listed here on this slide. The Whole Brain Child is a great first read if you've never looked at any of Dr. Dan Siegel's work. His most recent book, The Power of Showing Up, is also a fantastic read. He's got a wealth of knowledge to share with you through his books and his website. Dr. Becky Bailey's book, Conscious Discipline, And Easy to Love, Difficult to Discipline are some great resources that you can look into if you like some of the tools and those really practical hands-on sorts of things that you can do with you and your children. Check them out. So right now we're going to explore, we're going to dig into this amazing machine that we have in our heads, the brain. We're going to look at the different states of our brain and how they work together ideally, and how we can recognize when they're not working together so well, and some tools to get us back on track. So to start off with, I want to talk a little bit about expectations and what we expect for the holidays. A lot of times we have these beautiful, like in the Christmas song, this picture perfect way we think things will be, and ways that we hope things will play out for us and our children during these times. And sometimes those expectations are really, really sky high, and they're not always very realistic, right? And sometimes when we don't quite meet those expectations, that's where a lot of the stress and some of the hard feelings really come in. I do want to mention also that sometimes our expectations for the holidays are maybe less than perfect. Some of you and some of your children may have had very, very hard things happen during the holidays, or maybe we've experienced great loss or things that have happened that have maybe disrupted our lives. And sometimes during the holidays, those things come into a really, really sharp focus. We notice the people who aren't with us, and we notice the things that are maybe different than they were last year. I want you to even think about just kind of your expectations of this past year. Think about this time last year where you were and what you thought this year was going to be like. Is it a little different than you thought? Did things maybe not go the way that you planned for them to? I want to mention also at this point how that line, the mom and dad can hardly wait for school to start again. The truth behind that is really pretty deep. If you think about what our children are going through this time of year, even under the best of circumstances, when children return to school in the fall, they work very hard. They have to figure out everything all over again. Who is my teacher? What are my classes? What's expected of me? Who are my friends? They have to figure all of that out over and over again every year. It's almost like starting a brand new job every year in the fall. They have to figure out so much, right? And think about what's going on for our kids this year in particular. You know, this past year has not gone maybe the way that they expected it to. And then they had summer, and then maybe some hopes of school returning. And for our children during this year, returning to school virtually online. And our teachers have worked so hard to make this a good experience, and they've found out new ways to engage children through virtual learning and distance learning. And that took a lot of work for the teachers and took a lot of work for the students. And they've been working at figuring out these Zoom calls and how to submit their work online and how to engage with their friends when it's just a little Zoom screen instead of seeing them in person. That's a lot to figure out, right? And just about the time when they finally get things figured out, halfway through the school year, what happens? 2 weeks off, a break. All of the work that they put into figuring out the structure and the order and what's expected of them is completely gone for 2 weeks. And again, it may sound like fun to just have 2 weeks of playing Xbox and staying up late and eating things that you don't usually eat, and all of those things that kind of change our routines. And that 2 weeks is sometimes a recipe for a lot of chaos. So what do you expect over these next couple of weeks? What do you hope will happen? Um, when things go as planned, our brain loves it. It's like, I predicted this, this was going to happen, and it just kind of goes on autopilot. When things don't go the way that we hope that they would, that's when the stress comes. That's when our brain starts to react and our body starts to react to what's going on around us. And to illustrate that, I like thinking about the story of the Grinch. I love, if you haven't watched it, pull it out again and watch it this time of year. I love Jim Carrey's version of the Grinch because it really digs into the backstory of how this guy became this cranky old guy up on the hill. And what it looks at is this little guy with some hopes and some dreams, some things that he hoped were going to happen during Christmas. And if you've seen the movie, it's a great little scene where he has he's going to make this beautiful gift for his sweetheart and bring it to school, and it's going to be perfect. And he loves Christmas, and he's creative, and he's engaging, and he's figuring out how this is going to be the most wonderful experience he's ever had. And then things start to fall apart. And he ends up going to school, and it's mockery, and it's ridicule, and it's insult. And he just starts to melt down until he shouts, "I hate Christmas," and picks up the Christmas tree and chunks it out the window. Now, things may not be quite that dramatic for you and your household. But the the nuts and bolts of it are really there. There's our expectations. There's when they are not met. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on in the brain when that happens. So we're going to look at what's inside the brain. That we're going to look at three main parts of the brain and how they explain how we experience our circumstances around us. So we're going to start with, this is a color-coded system that Dr. Becky Bailey uses. It's green, blue, and red to explain the different parts of the brain. You don't have to remember all the technical words, but the color-coded system actually helps us have some shared language. This is something I would encourage you to work on with your children, to understand the parts of their brain and what they do and how you can tell when they're active and what they might need. So the green brain is the executive state, the thinking state. This is our cerebral cortex, the frontal lobe with the crown jewel, the prefrontal cortex right at the front and center there. This is the workhorse of the brain. It is so powerful. It does a lot of the heavy lifting within our brain. It does things like thinking clearly. It does problem solving. Logic lives up in that part of the brain. Language lives up in that part of the brain. The ability to think hypothetically, what might happen if, which leads to thinking before you do, which leads to empathy, what might be going on in the world of someone else. All of that lives up there. What this part of the brain needs is a good challenge. It loves to problem solve. It loves to fix things and figure things out and be creative and industrious. When this part of the brain is active, you've probably seen this in your kids, where they're just kind of in that flow state. You know, they're working on things that are important to them. They're in a good space. They can talk to you a lot. They can explain what's going on kind of in their world. And it can even explain what they need. It can explain it very, very clearly using words and language. Each part of the brain has more or less skills. And I like to think about this in terms of like, what's the size of the basket that holds all of these skills? The green brain's got a great big basket. It's huge. It has an enormous capacity for lots and lots of tools. Lots and lots of things that it can do to help fix problems. It has a capacity for that. It doesn't mean that they're always there, but it does mean that that part of the brain, when it's activated, can learn new tools all of the time. This is the part of the brain that actually learns a lesson. It's able to look at a mistake, look at something that didn't go well, and fix it so that next time around you can do better. You see how this is a really, really important part of the brain, but it's not the only part. We're not just a big thinking state. We also have our emotions, our feeling part of our brain. So that blue shaded area there, that middle part of the brain, this is the limbic region of the brain. There's lots of parts inside that are involved in perceiving like the emotional interactions between me and you, that think about our memories and what's happened in the past and how that's may impact what's happening right now between me and another person. There's lots of those parts that are involved in attachment, connection, relationship. This part of the brain is really, really good at feeling and perceiving the world around it to make sure I'm okay with you and you're okay with me. And this is the first part of the brain that starts to recognize tension, stress. It's trying to protect the self from potential risks and potential dangers by checking on relationally what's going on around it. The need that this part of the brain experiences is connection. It wants to connect. It wants to know I am known, I'm understood. You feel what's going on in my world, and you understand what may be difficult, what may be challenging, and that you care. As long as that need is being met, that part of the brain is really pretty soothed, and it's able to connect pretty well with that thinking brain. Our feelings and our thoughts can connect pretty well. The basket in this part of the brain is a little smaller. It's not that great big basket the green brain has. The tools that the blue brain has are fewer. They're mostly emotionally based as well. The blue brain can use words still. It's got some language in there, but depending on the level of stress, those words may not be very nice. So when our children are talking to us, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily in the green brain. It's like, what does the language sound like? Are there a lot of like, it's their fault, it's not fair, nobody likes me, things are just horrible? That's being stuck in that emotional state, right? So the expressions of the blue brain are highly, highly emotional. But that's not all. We're gonna move down one level lower. Our red brain. This is the survival state. This is mostly like the brainstem sort of area. This is automatic responses to the world around you, even down to like our heartbeat and our breathing, our respiration. Like if you're breathing and your heart is beating right now, you can thank your red brain for that. That's what it's there to do, is to keep you alive. Which also means that it is the part of the brain that responds immediately to threats and to perceived danger. Now, hear me, I say perceived danger. It doesn't have to be an actual threat, like a wild animal is chasing me. If one is, my red brain is definitely going to be active, and I'm going to go into fight, flight, or freeze, right? I'm either going to run away from that animal, fight for my life, or freeze because the situation is too big for me to know what to do next, and I kind of freeze to see, I need more information to know what's going to happen there. But that fight, flight, or freeze can be triggered by not an actual threat, but a perceived threat. Like if I feel like the emotions in the blue brain are so overwhelming that I don't quite feel safe anymore, that might trigger me down to that red brain survival state. What the red brain wants more than anything is to feel safe. It wants to know I'm safe and I'm okay. As long as that need for safety is met, as long as the child feels safe, they're going to be able to move up to that blue brain where they are going to be able to answer the question, am I connected? Do you know me? And when that is met, we connect up to the green brain that says, hey, let's work together to figure some things out. Let's solve some problems. Let's look at this in a different way. And when all of those are working together, we have what's called integration. Dan Siegel calls that the integrated brain. The upstairs and the downstairs working together. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our survival state are all working together for the good. When we pour stress on this amazing machine, this brain, some interesting things happen here. Now, to illustrate this, I'm going to show you what Dan Siegel calls the hand model of the brain. This will help you get one more tool to use to be able to kind of talk about this well with our children. So if you make a fist over your thumb, this is the model of our brain inside of our head. This up here, the fingers are the green brain. This is the upstairs brain, the thinking brain, wrapped around our feeling brain. The thumb represents our feeling brain underneath there. Then our wrist would kind of be our survival brain, the red brain, the brain stem. And when it's all working together, the frontal lobe is kind of hugging the emotional state in the limbic region, and it's resting on that survival state in the brainstem, and they're all doing their jobs. Things are going kind of pretty well. Under stress, we do what Dan Siegel calls flipping our lid, right? So when the stress overwhelms our thinking brain, we actually lose access to it. Kind of waves goodbye, goodbye. and it leaves us with the emotional state and the survival state to be able to solve all of our problems, which, as you know, the tools are a lot less, right? So the blue brain, when we leave that, our thinking brain, we're down to the emotional brain. We have just feelings and some maybe big emotionally charged words to solve that problem. That part of the brain is also the part of the brain that feels offense very, very easily. It feels offended. It can feel hurt. It can feel rejected pretty easily, right? It needs connection and needs empathy. It needs to know we're okay, we're connected here, right? So some things that you can do to start connecting with that middle brain is uh, pay attention to your children. What are they feeling? What's going on in their world, right? Which again takes a green brain to be able to do that. Right? Think about that. You know, if your kid flips their lid, they're feeling frustrated, you feel offended, you flip your lid as well. You've got two blue brains trying to solve this problem, which is not going to go very well. You've probably been there, right? Where everyone's emotional and no one's really thinking clearly. Breathe, right? We're gonna do some things as the adults to get back to our calm, regulated state. When we have our green brains, we can look at our children and say, huh, what's going on? What's up for you? Right? It looks like you're feeling upset. Looks like you're feeling frustrated. That green brain is perceiving the blue brain and it's putting some language on it. Looks like you feel angry. Looks like you feel frustrated, right? I'm here. I'm with you. I'm calm. Our our green brain is going to seek to connect with that blue brain the best that it can and communicate. I'm here with you. Now we're going to have some tools up here to be able to do that. And one of those tools is even just helping that blue brain understand that it's got choices, right? Here's a couple of things that you can do. If we're both in the green brain, we could collaborate, we could problem solve, we could ask our kids to brainstorm some ideas of how life can be better and how we can fix that problem. But when they're in that blue brain state, they might need to borrow our green brain, and we're going to have to maybe generate some solutions for them. This comes in the form of choices. We can offer that blue brain two doable, positive solutions that are immediately able to be acted upon, right? So if we say, you know, the kid's playing, everything's good, and they are really engaged in something that they're working on, and their brother just will not leave them alone, and they're trying all the things that they can try, and then they, boom, flip their lid, and they're feeling so frustrated, right? And we recognize, oh, you're feeling frustrated right now, aren't you? All you wanted was to play on that project you were working on, and it looks like your brother just won't leave you alone, right? I wonder what we could do about that. Could you maybe work on that project over in my room where you can have some alone time? Or would you like for me to talk to your brother for you? Which one works best for you? See, that's two positive, doable solutions that you can offer to that blue brain. And what it's going to say is, oh, they see me. They know what's going on. They know what's important to me, and they're helping me to meet that need. And as that brain feels, that blue brain feels felt and known and understood, and maybe it chooses a solution. Yeah, I'd like to go work in your room for a little while, right? And that green brain is able to come back down. Then and only then might we figure out some other solution to get this going better on into the future. But for right then, you've met the need, right? But let's say that need it outstrips the blue brain's ability. All the tools that are in the blue brain are exhausted, and you have like a full-blown meltdown going on. Your child might be in the red brain. So you recognize what the blue brain looks like. The blue brain is emotional, but it's talking, it's feeling, and it's at that verge of like, am I melting down, but I'm still kind of hanging with you. The red brain is when they've left that area. You're less likely to see their eyes. You're more likely to see big, explosive, physical sorts of reaction to the problem, right? If they've lost it, and they're beyond being upset about it, and they go and they start pushing or shoving or hitting their brother to try. That's how they're trying to solve the problem. They've gone into fight or flight. They perceived this threat as high enough that they're responding physically to that moment. At that point, you're not even going to be able to give a whole lot of choices. So you're definitely not going to say, now what do you think you should do to be able to stop hitting your brother right now? That's way too green brain. They can't think that hypothetically. They've lost the ability even to make choices. At this point, what they need is an adult who is calm, right? They've flipped. You've got to breathe, be in control. You got to be assertive, but also be positive. Believe the best in them. They would be doing well if they could, and they've lost their tools, their skills, their ability, and they need you to step in and bring safety back to the situation. They need to know that you have a plan, that you are calm, and that you are assertive. All three of those things need to be present. You need to be calm, green brain. You need to be assertive, right? You need to be saying, this is what we're going to have to do. And you need to be positive. You need to show them that you still believe the best in them, even though they may not be acting their best in that moment. And at that point, you're going to be very directive with them and show them, this is what I need you to do right now. Well, I see you. Hey, put your hands down at your side with me like this. Show them. Don't just tell them, show them, because they might need to see a physical representation of what you're wanting them to do. Because again, they're in that red brain. They have very little skills of even comprehending. Words have to get small. Request must get shorter, concise, to the point. And it's conveying, hey, here's safety. Come with me and we will get there, right? They need to know that assertiveness. If it is assertiveness without positivity and calm, it's going to feel like aggression. It's going to feel like you're another threat for them to fight or flight with, right? But let's say also that maybe you're being really positive and really calm, but you're not being assertive. You're like, maybe you should stop hitting your brother. I don't know. What do you think you should do? That's passive. And the red brain's not going to respond very well to that. It's going to say they don't know what I should do any better than I do, so I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing here, right? So that assertiveness says, I've got a plan. Here's my plan. Come with me. We're going to get through this. Breathe with me. just like this. Keep breathing. We're going to get through this. I believe in you, right? I know we can do this. So those are some ways to meet those needs, to meet the needs that may be happening in those brain states. I have an analogy I use sometimes thinking about the brain states, like in terms of being in different levels, different depths of water, right? If you're in that green brain, that's like being in the real shallow water out at the ocean, where you're kind of splashing around and playing and everything is fine and good. You got lots of skills. You can talk, you can play, you can be creative and fun, and you're both there where you can learn new things, right? The blue brain is like being in that water where you can't quite touch the bottom anymore, and you're kind of out of your depth, and you have to really think about, what am I doing here? And you might start feeling a little bit of lack of control there, like, oh man. And being able to recognize, well, my kid's out in that blue water, they're out in that deeper water. They're struggling, right? They need me to come to them and connect. Hey, I see this is hard for you. What do you want to do here? I'm going to hang with you. Do you want to come back to shore? Which works best for you? Here's some choices here. Then that red brain is like being out in the water, where it's out in the ocean, the big giant waves that are crashing, and it's cold, and you're drowning, right? And if you notice that your child is out in that water, if you physically try to engage with a drowning person, do you know what happens? They pull you down with them. They're in fight or flight. It is never a good idea to physically engage with someone who is in that fight or flight mode. So think about that in terms of when you notice your children in that red brain state, doing anything and everything you can to not try to physically intervene with them, because it's likely to get into a situation where someone's going to get hurt. What you do need to do is show them, here's the safety, like thinking about it like throwing him a life ring, saying, hey, here's a life ring, take it, grab it, I'm gonna pull you back, here we go. It's very calm. I believe the best in you, and then I've got a plan. Follow this plan. We're gonna get back to safety. Right. So when that happens, a lot of things are happening in our bodies as well. And recognizing that is really, really important. When we left the green brain, a lot of times that's because a trigger or a stressor has happened in the environment that has caused us to go off of kind of cruise control and into like this space where our body starts to respond to the stress. Our sympathetic nervous system is that first kind of line of defense to stress, and some things start to happen really quickly when we hit that point. Our breathing becomes really rapid. Our heart starts to race. Our whole body gets kind of tense and tight, and that's all getting the body prepared for fight or flight, which in a life-threatening situation is really important and needs to happen. But when we're interacting with us and our kids, we would like to be able to change that energy of how that's happening there. So recognizing your body's early warning systems is one of the first lines of defense towards de-escalating stress in that moment. Um, so what I would like for you to do is take a moment here and just kind of pause. And if you're with your kids watching this, talk about this with your kids. If not, write these down and have a conversation with your children. I want you to think about 3 questions here. One is, can you discuss some things that lead to a flipped lid situation in your home? What are those things that typically you can kind of predict lead to that happening? Can you come up with them? Brainstorm them. Think about what might lead to a flipped lid situation in our household. Then also think about, what are your body's early warning signs? How can you tell that you're under stress? Is it you feel the thumping in your head, or the beating in your chest, or the shallow breathing, the tightness, the tension? What can you recognize your body's own early warning signs? And then third, I want you to think about, who is a safe person to go to when you're feeling stressed? You as a parent. Who do you go to when things get challenging for you? Who can you call up, or who could you maybe chat with, or go out for coffee with to discuss, man, this has been a hard thing? Who are your safe people that you talk to when you're having experiences like this? It's important to know that. But also talk to your children and let them know that this is important for them as well. When they're noticing, ooh, boom, I'm here, where do you go? Have a quick plan of who they can go and who they can talk to, who they can connect with, to get back that feeling of connection, the feeling of safety, to be able to get back to that lid down, green brain sort of state. So what can you do as a parent when these things happen? Um, when you recognize flipped lid for your child and flipped lid for yourself, um, you're going to need to be the one to bring the lid down. It takes the grown up. The child's brain is still under development. This frontal lobe, the green brain for our children, is actually still developing up through the mid 20s. So they are dealing with machinery that's not quite done being built yet. That's why children are a lot more likely to flip their lids. They're a lot more likely to go to that emotional or survival state more quickly. So what they need is a grown-up who's very self-aware and recognizes those states, recognizes the need. Whoa, they need some connection right now. They need safety. And they need a parent who's able to get their lid down first. When this happens, the child perceives they're safe, they're in control, they've got a plan, and what Dr. Dan Siegel calls co-regulation happens. It's not self-regulation. Self-regulation is the parent regulating themselves. Co-regulation means they borrow your calm and they're able to get that lid back down. So how do we do this? How do we get back to that good green brain state? I'm going to show you a tool that you can use to meet that need. When their children are feeling disconnected, when they're stuck in that emotional thinking, or when they feel like the world is threatening around them, first, we are going to breathe. We are going to be a star. And I love Dr. Becky Bailey has this phrase, when the world doesn't go your way, you be a star. You breathe like a star. STAR stands for smile, take a deep breath, and relax. So this is going to start off with you learning this for yourself. And I would encourage you, once you get this down, teach this tool to your children. Let them know this is how you deal with things when the world doesn't go your way. You be a star. You breathe like a star, right? So the smile part's important. When you smile, these parts of your cheek right here, these muscles, you feel that? When you smile, feel that, how that tightens up right there. When those muscles are stimulated, it actually sends messages to that downstairs lower part, the emotional and survival state of the brain, that things are going to be okay. You know, we get this scowl and our face gets tight when we get stressed out, and smiling reverses all of those things. It reverses that process, and it gets us back, and it starts the process to get us back to that good green brain sort of state. You may not be able to actually smile. You may force a smile. You might push your cheeks up a little bit like this. That works. Or biting a pencil, or saying the word three and holding it, three, and it stimulates those muscles there. Any of those things will work, but the important thing is that you smile. Then take a deep breath. It's in through the nose, out through the mouth. When you breathe deeply, you are consciously changing how your breath moves from that stressed fight or flight or emotional state. Our breathing is from like here to here. It gets stuck above the diaphragm. It's that short, shallow breathing that's shooting oxygen to your large muscle groups, getting you ready for fight or flight. Choosing to breathe deeply breathes below the diaphragm. It expands when you breathe out, when it contracts when you breathe out. To breathe in, Expand, breathe out, contract. That process also lets your nervous system know that things are going to be okay. When you breathe deeply, it actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Remember, the sympathetic is what activates fight or flight. Parasympathetic, think about like a parachute. Poof, it just slows everything back down, gets you to that calm, safe place again. So smile, take a deep breath, and relax. When the world doesn't go your way, breathe like a star. You can do this. This is something you can actually do to improve your intentions and your conscious control of your body and of your brain. When instead of it going on this stressful autopilot, you're going to bring control back to your situation. Smile, take a deep breath, and relax. Usually in sets of 3 is great. If you can get your kids to breathe with you, that's wonderful. Sometimes you can't. If they're so flipped that they're stuck down there and you can tell that they can't even, you can invite them to take a deep breath, right? It's always an invitation rather than you better take a deep breath, because remember, that's you taking control and they might perceive that as a threat. So you might invite, hey, looks like this is hard. Why don't you take a couple of big deep breaths with me? And if they can't, you can even offer, it looks like it's a bit too hard for you. You know what? I'm going to choose to take a few deep breaths for you. And when they see you breathing calmly, it actually activates these mirror neurons in the brain that mimics what's happening in front of them. And even you choosing to take those deep breaths for them might start that process where their lid's going to come back down. So what I'd like for you to do is the first activity that I want you to do is to make a visual reminder of this star breathing. So I've got our stars here. If you're participating in this program and you have these with you, you'll have one to make. And if not, you can make your own star breathing sign. But take some sort of star, and it'd be great if you even wrote smile, take a deep breath, and relax somehow on the star as a reminder, and place this up somewhere in your house where you can see it a lot. And it can be that visual reminder that when the world's not going the way you would like for it to go, be a star. Smile, take a deep breath, and relax, and it will start that calming process. So this is one of quite a few tools that we're going to explore over these videos here. And I hope this one works well for you. We've got 3 more videos left in the series here. So I hope that you will continue to join us for the rest of these. Hope this is useful to you in creating this less stressed family holiday. So join us next time where we look at the power of connection and how building connection between you and your child meets the need of that blue brain. And then we'll look at structure, how building household structure helps people feel not only connected, but feel safe. And then we're going to look at some really powerful tools around changing our mindsets to promote more healthy thought patterns and less stress and less conflict between you and your children. And I hope that this really is the most wonderful time of the year for you, and that these tools will help you have more and more enjoyment of your children during this holiday season. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again.